So we're here today with Dr. Cordie Williams, and he's running for the U.S. Senate in California as a Republican, and so we wanted to get to know him a little better. Welcome to the Western Journal, and can you tell us why you've launched out, a little bit about yourself and why you've launched out into this Senate bid?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really appreciate yourself, Randy, the Western Journal, and Floyd Brown for having me on. It's an honor. America is one of those things. I mean, we all grew up with, in my opinion, this red, white, and blue idea of, we worship Jesus, we love the flag, we honored our veterans, and it just seems like the last, I don't know, I just turned 42 2 days ago, and it seems like the last 10 years in particular, that's completely transformed, and certainly you've seen even a big transformation the last 6 years. And you've seen a real drive, in my opinion, to make us almost this socialist, Marxist, communist state that forgets about all the ideals and, to be candid, forgets about the souls that are 6 feet under. The tombstones at Arlington, the names on the Vietnam Memorial, and that's why I'm running.
Now, what is, you'd feel like, of course, we had the recall election for Gavin Newsom last year.
Yeah.
And there was hope that maybe a Republican could gain traction there. As you look at California now, do you see a shift, or do you feel like California is more open to having Republican representation again in the Congress?
Yeah, but I think it has to be the right person. I think that, I think this is a different market and a different consumer if we want to talk in terms of business, right? If we want to talk in terms of business, even since the recall, this is a different market. It's a different consumer. Whether you look at Joe Biden's approval ratings, and we know that those are skewed because they're primarily, polling Democratic voters, right? So we know it's probably 5 to 10 points, 15 points, some people would say, lower than what they're reporting. It's, Governor Newsom's third kind of, I don't know how you want to phrase it, but his own emergency authorization to give him unlevied or unyielding power so that he can be a dictator. And an extended mask mandate. And you have all that. And even folks that voted for the current guy in the White House are disenfranchised because really the question we're asking him too, Randy, is, are you better off now than you were 9 months ago? Are you better off now, regardless of whether you liked or hated Trump? Are you better off now than you were 9 to 12 months ago? And so many folks are saying across party lines, they're not. And the big unifying message is it's not about red or blue. It's not about Biden or Trump. It's not about race, gender, or who you went to bed with last night. This is about our kids. 2022 is a referendum on parental control. Parents should have the right to control what goes in their kids' brains and what goes in their kids' veins. And that and the souls that are 6 feet under, that's the reason I'm running. And that's the reason why we can win.
Now, of course, Virginia went for Youngkin, and Biden had won that state by 10 points. Part of the shift, as you said, was parents, concerned about their kids and COVID policies. And there was a shift among even, Latinos, according to some polling, a large shift in favor of Republicans. We've kind of seen that nationally. Do you have any sense of like Latinos or other ethnic groups coming more towards the Republican way of thinking?
I think that anybody that talks outside of, are you an R or are you a D? What we're trying to do is just say, not because we're embarrassed of the party. Quite the contrary. What we're trying to do is say, what's the one unifier we all have? It's our kids. You want to raise your kids in love the way you see fit, and you don't want big government or state government coming into your kitchen or your living room and telling you how to police your kids. And that's a fundamental right that transcends partisan politics, and it's really just about the Constitution. It's those rights we have from God, the natural law that John Locke talks about. And so I think that's really, we've got to get out of labeling somebody and looking at the candidate. And I get it. It's a common question. What are you? I'm a proud Republican. But let's step away from all the divisive rhetoric, because CNN and Don Lemon and MSNBC and folks like that, they've done a great job of, dividing us on everything else except our humanness and our commonality. And I think as a Christian, that's what I want to step back into. Because there's nothing better to minister salvation to somebody than love, the message of the book of Matthew. And I think more than not, we got to get back to that.
I was looking at some of the work Alex Padilla has been up to. He took over for Kamala Harris when she became vice president. And I noticed two of his issues where he was in support of this voting rights legislation that the Democrats were trying to put through that got stalled thanks to our senator, Kyrsten Sinema, and then Joe Manchin in West Virginia. And then also he's pro-vaxxing children, sounds like even young children. I assume those are some of the issues you might take. You might have a different opinion than him. Is that true? And what other things do you think he's doing wrong so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's been in politics for 30 years. I mean, I think at this point, Randy, just to kind of add on to a question you asked me a second ago is, how can a Republican or somebody like me get elected right now? I think people want servant leaders. I think they're tired of extorters and takers. We have people that want to take somebody that goes in, they're supposed to get a $173,000 salary, and they get a $173 million salary. But he's done nothing for California over the years. When you talk about voter integrity, the real problem is all the dead people out there that are voting. It's funny how that happens, or interesting. And then all the people that are actually unregistered or undocumented. They want one thing, Randy, and you know it and I know it, and it's complete control. They want an authoritarian, totalitarian dictatorship. And Alex Padilla is just one of the puppets to execute on that mission. Take who I voted for off the table, take who I worship at night off the table, and let's talk about commonality. And it's about our kids. And so Alex Padilla is more concerned about the PACs and the money and I'll just say the back channel money that he's getting from GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, Pfizer, Richard Pan, who's a state senator that has done so much for taking away personal rights and medical freedom in the state of California.
So if you could picture yourself now, January 23, and you've been elected to the U.S. Senate, what would be your top priorities as you took office? What would you be pushing for?
Medical freedom. And what I mean by that is you would think medical freedom, we would have it in the First Amendment, but I'm just mortified the last 2 years, Randy, and I think so many of the followers of the Western Journal and viewers out there are probably mortified at the way people have trampled on HIPAA, the ADA, and the First Amendment. And I think legislation, which we shouldn't need it, but legislation out there that has some protection and that outlines where, what a religious exemption should look like, and outlines what doctor can give a medical exemption, and almost like making it like a coloring book for a 3-year-old, because I think it needs to be outlined, protected, and talked about again, because all over this country we've seen people at all levels of government, they've disregarded and they've trampled over people's personal rights and their personal freedom around their medical choices, and we need to change that.
And so you've mentioned your Christian faith a couple times. What aspect of that is kind of motivating your candidacy, or how is that undergirding or guiding, or any of those aspects of it?
The Christian faith has been so quiet politically. And, I don't know what the stats are, but most Republicans are Christians. Most Christians are Republicans. And you've seen this kind of quiet, passive, slow-moving machine over the years from a Republican standpoint, where the Democrats, in my opinion, and not to create, party against party, but the other side will just say they've been looking strategically, 5 election cycles out, 20, 30 years down the road. And we never have. We've been very reactive and passive. We've tried to play very polite. We've tried to hand out Bibles. Well, Jesus handed out Bibles, but he also flipped over tables. And I think people are learning again how to have that David calling, because there's been so many pastors that have laid down to the tyranny. They've masked, they've shut down, they've especially in California, been told not to sing by Governor Newsom, so they've complied. And I think we have to raise up warriors, and I think that's what the last 2 years has exposed. And what it's created is it's brought the Pastor Rob McCoys, the Pastor Jurgen Matthesius, the Pastor Greg Locke and Dave Scarlett and Todd Coconato, and all these major pastors that have blossomed, Jack Hibbs, and come out for the Christian faith and said, you know what? I'm not shutting down. I don't care what you do. this is my right under the First Amendment. And what we were called to do as Christ followers and freedom fighters is draw that line in the sand, be vigilant. And this is a war that's going to be every day for the rest of your life. I firmly believe that. And I'm raising up my boys to fight it the right way.
That sounds good. Well, unless if you have any other thoughts, your elevator pitch or anything you'd like to say about your candidacy.
No, what I would say to folks out there is, this is no longer about supporting the party. It's about supporting the person. So if there are candidates like me that you believe in, whether they live in Montana or New York or California like I do, I'm going to ask you to take your tithe and tithe to the future of your country. Because so many people think that it's easy to run for office and guys just do it for fame. I can tell you the hardest thing I've ever done is run for office. And my question to every voter out there, or every viewer out there would be, if we do that, if everybody moves out of California, because California is a wasteland and it's hopeless, they're going to move to your state. And your state's going to go from red to purple to blue. And then you're going to have a permanent minority in the House and the Senate. And you want to walk into communism and Marxism? You want to see CRT times 10? Allow that to happen where you have a completely godless society and a godless state and see what happens. And so what I would ask everybody to do is go to Cordie4Senate.com, CORDIE4Senate.com, because I'm a fighter. I've been a fighter my entire life. God is making some waves with this campaign. Every day there's a different door opening to access to a huge group and, a huge following or somebody else that's going to get behind us. And we feel really good about the jungle primary on June 7th. Padilla is going to take the first spot. I believe my name's going to be on that second spot. And then I'm really going to be over the target at that point. So the other thing I would ask is for everybody's prayers.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Cordie Williams. It's really been a pleasure getting to know you a bit and wish you well as the campaign goes forward.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks for your time. God bless you.
God bless.